Hello, everyone, and welcome back to episode 11 of Your Favorite Movies. Today, I'm joined by SallyBoyCarlos, and how are you doing today?
I'm doing good. How about you?
I'm doing pretty good. I just watched the movie we'll be talking about today, and what is your favorite movie of all time?
My favorite movie is Christine, and it was directed by John Carpenter, and I believe it came out in 1984.
1983, I think it was. At least that's what it kept saying when I was watching it. I watched it on Netflix today, and I enjoyed the movie. It wasn't one that I loved, but I did really enjoy it. But do you remember the first time you saw it?
I did. I was at one of my buddy's houses, and he had a huge stack of just like old, or not old, I guess you could say, but like classic movies, like 80s, 90s. And I remember picking it out because I had never seen it before. I didn't even know what it was 3 or 4 years back.
Yeah.
So I picked it out, we watched it, and like ever since, and like the first time I saw like the car like fully made up, it was just so cool to me.
Oh yeah, I definitely see that. Like I knew about the movie going into it. I knew it was written by Stephen King. I knew that like it was about like an evil car. I didn't know how the car worked and operated and all that. Like I,
Yeah,
I just knew that there was something bad with it, they
the
take
book,
something and then Stephen King does it. What were you gonna
yeah,
say?
the book definitely has handles why the car does what it does way better. But I
Okay,
think
yeah.
I think because the book explains it and the movie kind of leaves you like,
Yeah.
what is this
Yeah,
thing?
that's one thing, and I think that it's clear that there's going to be a spoiler warning here. And I was wondering that while watching it. Can you explain like why the car does what it does, kind of, or at least what the book tells you?
Okay, so the book, or pretty early in the book, it tells you that that old guy at the beginning who sold Arnie the car, he had a wife and a daughter, and his daughter choked in the car, and his wife killed herself because she couldn't look at the car because it reminded her too much of her daughter. Basically, what where I'm at right now, because I'm yet to finish the book even,
Okay.
but from what my understanding is, everyone who knows the information that is given to them thinks that it's either the wife or the child that's doing that.
That's
That's
what I thought. I assumed that it was some spirit of
yeah,
someone. I thought it would be one of them, so that makes sense.
yeah.
Like Stephen King, his books typically go more in detail, sometimes for better, sometimes for worse, depends on which book you read. I'd say
I,
he's my favorite author. I've read a few of his books and I've really enjoyed them. Like I'd consider Misery my favorite book of all time, and then The Shine is a good book. And this one I think would be interesting. But for the movie, for me when I was watching, I was like, this is so 80s. Do you
yes.
agree?
Oh my
It's just so
God.
80s.
It's been said that some people believe that it's one of the movies with like the most curse words in it because there's a lot
I
of
can see
yeah,
why.
there's a lot of like 4 letter words. There's even some 6 letter words. Like there's like vulgar language in this movie.
Yeah, like I'm one where like I'm a teenager, obviously. I swear in videos, obviously. But when I was watching this, I was like, and it never really, like, I hear it doesn't like affect me. I'm not saying it did in this movie. When I was listening like to them talk, I was just like, there it is again. There it is
Yeah.
again. And it just kept going on and on. And it
One of the terms in the book that's used in the movie is shitter,
yeah.
and it's not even because in the movie Arnie is the one who says it, but in the
Yeah.
book the old guy is the one who
Oh,
introduces.
really?
Yes.
That's interesting. And yeah, there's a few times where I like I don't know how to fully explain this, but it feels like it's a very almost male dominated movie, if that makes sense,
Yeah.
because like the male characters, what they say, how they describe other people, especially like the women in the movie,
Yeah.
a lot of the
The book really does that well too because Stephen King
yeah,
is known for writing like teenagers and kids really
yeah,
well. And he said that for Christine, he wanted to make the boys like horrible,
yeah,
like people in retrospect because of just
yes.
how they talk to women, how they like what they do in the book. Like you're
Oh
starting
yeah.
to sympathize with them, and it gets a little hard sometimes.
Yeah, there's plenty of times where I was just like, damn, like why are you why are you talking to them like that? Or the way they explain it and how they're all putting like bets up against each other. And I think that leads me into the next question, which is like, who is your favorite character in Christine, if you
Um,
have one?
I would say Arnie, but I wouldn't. I don't know. I think first half Arnie when he's not main.
Nerd Arnie.
Yeah, exactly. Because he's even when he's nerd Arnie, he's not as bad as his buddy is when talking to like women and stuff.
Yeah.
Like he has somewhat of a better understanding.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
but for the whole movie, I would say Lee,
Yeah.
definitely.
Yeah,
Yeah,
me too. Like if that was actually one where normally like for me, whenever I watch movies or anything, my favorite character typically, I don't know, it's always been like this, always seems to be like the main one, at least in most cases. But for this one, I was like, no, she is easily my favorite character here.
yeah,
She's like one of the only ones I didn't hate. I didn't really hate Dennis. Like there were a few times where I was like, dude, like come on. But like for Lee, she's just like the entire thing. I was just like I sympathize with her. I wanted her to win when there's that scene where she starts choking. I was like, no, don't
yeah,
kill her. Like you can't kill her. And
yeah,
that's what I was thinking, because if they were to go and like kill her in the movie, I would have been like, that's kind of weird. But I mean, they didn't, which is good because it kind of helps with the whole kind of relationship in a way, you know what I mean,
yeah,
between like her and Arnie, because she is still trying to pull Arnie back, and they get in fights because as it goes along, like Arnie starts, kind of getting weird with his car with Christine, and he like refers to her like he only calls her Christine. One of the best lines I think that kind of summarizes a lot of the movie is when he's what is he says girls are supposed to get jealous of other girls, not cars,
yes.
and that
That's
explains.
that's something in the book as well. And I think Lee says it in the movie. She might only say it in the book. She says that like girls are supposed to. You're right. Girls are supposed to get jealous of girls.
Yeah.
When you're this attached to a car, I mean, I feel like it's necessary. Like she feels like it's definitely warranted.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. Like, I'm pretty sure she says that line like right after that one, and
Yeah,
it explains a lot. And the tagline for the poster is something that I really love. It's like, how are you supposed to kill something that isn't alive? I
yeah,
think that really explains kind of what they're going up against, because the movie for me was a little bit slow in the first half when they're building characters. There's a bit of time, but
yeah.
like when we finally establish that this is the car, and then Lee and Dennis kind of make a plan. This is what we're gonna do. This is how we're gonna destroy it. And I really love how when they're sitting in there in the one whatever machine, and
Oh
then you see the car
yeah,
drive and it turns, and then Christine just the lights come on and she flies out. I was like, that is awesome. And I also like how the windows are tinted, so you never really know
yeah.
if Arnie is in there. I think that was an amazing detail.
That was the choice of John Carpenter, that he wanted to show that is it Arnie or is it Christine, and
Yes.
then I love at the ending when Arnie dies and Christine tries to make one last like fight, and then she
Yeah.
just gets
Yeah.
compacted.
Yeah, she gets in the little square thing, but you can still hear the radio in a way. And I was just like, like this is pretty interesting. And it kind of shows how kind of obsessed I feel like, if maybe I'm looking too deep into it, but like, oh well, why not? This movie, the main theme is kind of showing how obsessed people can get over little things. I think that's like when you really dive into it, because yes, in my opinion, like it's a cheesy 80s movie in a way. Like it's not it's slasher, but it's not exactly. Like it's a little bit different. But when you think about it, it shows, how he's starting to get connected to this car. He distances himself from his friends, then from his girlfriend, and especially with his parents. Like I think we should definitely cover that one. Like what do you
That's
think of the whole parent relationship with him?
I again, and I'm saying a lot of flaws about the movie. I know, but
That's okay.
I just love it. I don't know why. But
Yeah.
anyways, the book handles it better too, because the book, obviously they're longer. It's the book is longer, so it gets more
Yeah.
time to flesh everyone out during the course of the book. But I think his parents, the relationship between him and his parents in the movie, I think because it wasn't built up so much, we didn't get to see too much of the parents' relationship as we did with Dennis or Lee.
Yeah.
I think when they do have that fight where Arnie grabs his dad like violently
Yeah.
like that, yeah, exactly. I think it's definitely, I don't know the word.
Like
Like
missing a bit.
yeah, exactly. I think it's like yeah, but we never really got to see how he was before this. Like
Yes.
and the book explains more about, his mom always knew him as like this sweet, kind-hearted boy, right? But in the
Yeah.
movie, just like we don't really get to see that part of him.
Yeah, I can definitely see that, and I can feel the different kind of change in between, like his personality, and even with his mom, because his mom's kind of they're both the parents are very like strict on him, and they're like, you can't do this, you can't talk to this, and like the first shot we see from him, I'm pretty sure is him running out with the garbage, and then the garbage breaks, and then it's all over there, and you kind of are able to like, yeah, he's a nerd, I'm guessing that, he's got the glasses, like that's one thing that's just like,
Yeah,
he's got the big glasses,
yeah,
and then there's There's definitely some stuff like that's very 80s, you know, when they're fighting the other kids, or they're trying to take his lunch basically, and then he like pulls out the switchblade and he's got like the big kind of mullet in a
Yeah,
way, and
yeah,
then as he's walking away, he's like, "You didn't do this," and I was just like, yeah, you're definitely like the tough guy. And I find that Stephen King, I bet it's again better in the book, but like that's not really an issue. I don't really consider it like an issue if something's better in the book for the most part. But I find that, you know, he's really good at writing like teenagers, especially, and bullies. Like there's always, you got your
yeah.
teenagers and you got your bullies.
And I think it's because he's been around longer than a lot of people, and he's gotten to experience it more, a lot
Yeah,
more
through
than
decades.
people do. Yeah. So I think when while writing them, he kind of pulls from his own experiences and tries to also mix in some of those sort of cliches, but not always straying too far away from his own writing style.
Yeah. Oh yeah, 100%. I find that he like for it is one of my favorite horror movies of all time. I love that movie to death, and I honestly one day will try to read the book. The 2017 one I just think is amazing, and I do really like the sequel as well. And that just like that really shows his skill with writing characters and stuff. And then Stand By Me is one of my favorites as well, just of all time. I think again, you got a group of like teenage boys, or I think just preteen boys, and it shows also his kind of contrast where in that movie, you know, we sympathize with all these boys, but in this one, we hate all the guys in it. And it's just like, it shows how skilled he is as a writer. And obviously, he didn't write the screenplay or anything, but it's
Yeah.
kind of the story from him. And also, you know, we have John Carpenter behind this, a horror legend. Behind me is sitting The Thing, which is, I watched it for the first time in October on Halloween Day. And it's instantly one of my favorite horror movies and one of my favorite movies. It's that good. And then, of course, he made Halloween. And what do you think of like John Carpenter's other movies?
Sometimes his movies aren't always like top tier.
Yeah.
Some of them are, and I think the ones that are, and even the ones that aren't, you can watch and still enjoy because of just the way that he's able to make them like fun while also being pretty scary. Like Christine, the same way Stephen King does, I think John Carpenter can make pretty much anything scary. Where Stephen King
Yeah.
writes it and John Carpenter directs in such a way that it makes it like haunting and menacing.
Yeah, like there's definitely a part of the movie that I think sticks with you, and it's because, you know, cars are something that like especially now, like everybody uses in daily transport. Like we use it all the time, and to think that randomly you could sit down in your car and then just choke to death, or you know,
Oh
like
yeah,
the boss gets squished in it,
oh
like
yeah,
that thought is just kind of scary. Like I like when I'm watching it, I'm not like, oh my God, I can't look at the screen, but it's kind of like it's like the aftertaste of the movie,
yeah.
if that makes sense.
John Carpenter, I think because it's rated R, where most of the rated R parts come in is just like the curses.
Yes.
Because there's not a lot of violence. Like in the book, Moochie Welch, he dies a way more gruesome death, where
Yeah.
Christine sort of, it doesn't show it on screen in the movie. And in the book, Christine like runs him over and then back and forth and back. Like it's way worse in the book. But
Oh
I feel like
God.
he writes it like that because he knows that like we're not seeing it, but just like the thought
It's
in our
the
mind.
mental picture.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's like because you know words on a page won't really scare you, but if these words make you think, then that'll scare you because your own mind will scare you. That's a whole other topic. But like to what you can start, what he can make you, him or John Carpenter, like Stephen King or John Carpenter, kind of make you feel or think is something real special. I obviously love John Carpenter. I really got to watch more of his movies because I love Halloween, and obviously I mentioned The Thing as just a fantastic movie. And I also really love the score here. Like, obviously, it's music by John Carpenter once again, and this guy's just
Yeah.
a master. Like, I heard little hints of Halloween. It sounded like there were a few
Yeah.
notes, but I think this score also stands on its own in a way.
I really like the main theme for Christine, like that da na na. Like I don't
Yeah.
know if
Yeah.
it sounds exactly like it, but I just really like it because I think it's very, again, like you said, it's very 80s. Like you can tell like
Yes.
you hear the techno in it, But
Yes.
I really love the tune for it.
Yeah, like he's a master director, but also like composer. Like I don't know, like, obviously the Halloween score is one of the most iconic of all time, not just for horror, but this one I never really hear people talk about this movie all too much. And I'm not saying it's one of the greatest of all time, but I'm saying I did enjoy it. I do think it is a good movie. And if you're a fan of like John Carpenter's movies or Stephen King, like you should check this out. I do highly recommend it. Obviously, it is your favorite movie. And is there like one scene that you just think is like the best or your favorite that you just put above them all?
I'll hands down, it's the scene when Christine is all broken, destroyed, and Arnie's like, "Show me," and Christine fixes herself. And I really like the way they did that. And what they did is they had a bunch of Christines, maybe like
Oh,
11 or 12.
really?
And what they do is they destroy it with like compression, and then they rewind the footage so that it looks like it's fixing itself.
That's smart.
It's really cool. And I think Dead Meat mentioned it on his kill count for Christine.
Oh yeah, I didn't even know that. I didn't know it was rewind. I was actually wondering how they did that. Like I assumed there might have been something with it, but I was just like, because it looks really good. I mean, this movie is from 1983, and a lot of like 80s movies are like this movie is dated in ways, but I'd say for like Christine's effects, they actually do look really good. Like
Yeah,
anytime it's they work well with close-ups, obviously, and then you just see like little parts, so obviously that's it. But also like that scene, the show me scene where you just and then the
yeah,
lights turn on and then everything starts going. I was like, wow, I'm actually really impressed that this was like for us it's a million years ago, like a while ago. And
yeah,
that one I think is easily like the most kind of iconic scene from it. Like again, this isn't like one of the most famous movies ever, but if there's one scene that everyone will remember, it'll be that scene.
yeah.
And I think overall that's probably my that one. And I do really enjoy the ending and the climax, but I also really love kind of the little confrontations between Lee and Arnie, like
Yeah.
when we have them when it's raining at the movie, the drive-in movie, and then she starts choking, like she's almost dying. Like, did that? What does that scene do for you? If you get what I'm asking, like, how do you feel when watching that scene?
I think it shows that it's the scene that it's a turning point for Lee, because she's like, okay, because she thinks, and like she's definitely doesn't want to sound crazy in front of Arnie or anybody, but she feel like she knows that it was the car,
Yes.
and she knows that it was jealous of her, and then like later on she gets mad at Arnie for not opening the door fast enough.
Yeah.
And I think the more and more that she thinks about it, the more and more she's like, this car is alive, and it's doing something. Arnie changing from like nerd to like,
Bad boy wearing all black and the hair
yeah,
slicked. Well, no, the hair was always kind of slicked, but yeah,
exactly.
I agree because there's definitely like I think you took the words right out of my mouth there, which is good. Like where you're saying that there's a massive turning point for her because we kind of see for Arnie, it's like this little kind of slow transition where he starts being a little bad, and then like when he's talking to Dennis, he's kind of just like, yeah, I gotta go, and then he kind of leaves in a way. And obviously, when you look at him at the start of this movie and like the final shot where he pulls like the glass out, it's a very
No,
big difference. But for her, it's very subtle. And that's why I also think that her performance is fantastic. I think she gives the best performance here. I forget the
yeah,
actress's name, I'll put it on screen, but she's really great. And then when I love how John Carpenter, or it was probably Stephen King as well, like chose to show that something bad is about to happen. The doors lock, and John Carpenter does close up on the door handles, and then the little I forget what they're called, the thing like it goes down, it locks,
yeah,
and then the radio comes on, plays some same like old rock song, and I
yeah.
was just like, that is the perfect way to describe that something bad is going to happen.
And in the book as well, it talks a lot about rock in the
Yeah,
80s, 70s, since it takes place in the 70s. In the book, I think it's pretty funny because Stephen King writes lyrics for the song,
really.
and I really like in that part where Dennis is trying to get into Christine, and it plays "You Keep on Knocking, but You Can't Come In."
Yeah.
I love how like the songs that she plays match with like what's happening in this
Yeah.
certain situation. Yeah,
Yeah, it's like it's funny because it matches the scenario and they're kind of subtle. Like if I go back and when I watch this movie again, like I'll probably realize that more. There were a few times like that one where I did notice it, and I thought it was pretty smart. And there's lots of things like yes, in my opinion, I know obviously we share a different one. There are plenty of flaws here, but it was a fun movie. And again, I do recommend watching this movie if you're a fan of John Carpenter or Stephen King, or if you just want a fun kind of not scary, but like creepy-ish 80s movie that it's definitely kind of a horror movie, and I think the actual story is quite interesting. It's very unique, and I have to thank you for coming on, man. It was a lot of fun talking to you.
Thank
We always
you.
DM.
Thank you for having me on. I really appreciate the opportunity.
Of course.
In my eyes, of course, you probably won't agree, but like in my eyes, like you're one of the biggest YouTube faces for critics, movies critics. A lot of people will probably disagree with me, but in my opinion,
Thanks, man. That means a lot. I never thought I would hear that. That means a lot. And his Instagram is linked down below if you want to go give him a follow. I mean, he's a great guy and really fun to talk to you. And everyone watching, tell us what you think of Christine. Where does it rank amongst John Carpenter's other films and like Stephen King for movies, adaptations, or books, anything like that? And thank you all for watching. We'll see you guys next time. Over and out.